Well, first of all, I just love skiing. Like, so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy, ever.
Yeah, I'm scared to death right now, but I've got this. Like, I know deep down inside, I'm capable of what I'm about to do.
I came back way stronger. I felt like the rehab was pretty simple and straightforward. And I learned how to appreciate my body and how to take care of it, what to eat and like to stretch. I was 18, so I felt like I was invincible at the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Athletic Stance Podcast, a skier's perspective with your host, yours truly, Scott Chrisman. In this podcast, I have made it my job to go out and interview skiers at the highest level of the sport, to explore their perspective on life, what shaped and influenced them to become the person they are, and a whole lot more. First, let's take a look at our sponsors, because without them, none of this is possible. Our first sponsor is Grass Sticks. I love these poles. Not only are they sustainable, they're handmade in Steamboat, Colorado, and by far the most durable and best pole I've ever used. I used to break a couple pair of aluminum poles a season. I haven't broke a pair in 2.5 years now, so if that doesn't speak to the quality, I don't know what does. Use the code REP5 for 15% off a new set of sticks. Our second sponsor is IFA Pro Wear. They make sustainable bamboo underlayers that are not only the most comfortable underlayers I've ever used, but antimicrobial. So they keep from smelling bad, and they're wicking, so it'll keep you dry. Check out their website, ifa-prowear.com, and use the code AOS17 for 15% off any purchases. They just came out with an underwear line that is super comfortable. I recommend you check it out. This man is one of my idols in the skiing world. He has won multiple X Games gold medals. He won a gold medal in the Sochi Olympics. And not only that, he has been married from a young age, a father from a young age of 2 beautiful children. And overall, he just embodies a mentality that is second to none. He really is a role model and a leader in society and in the ski industry. And it was such an amazing time to sit down and talk with him. I hope you guys enjoy this interview with David Wise.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? My name is David Wise, and I'm a Reno, Nevada native. Grew up skiing Lake Tahoe all around, mostly alpine meadows as a youngster, and now you can find me anywhere from Mammoth to Squaw to North Star to Heavenly to the OG place that I like to ski powder at, Kirkwood, and all over the world. And I travel to my main profession, I guess, on the skiing side of things, is I compete in half pipe. I also film and do backcountry and all the fun stuff that comes along with it. I like to ski as deep of snow as I possibly can when I can. But my bread and butter is definitely pipe contests. And so right now I'm kind of launching into training for and hopefully making the team and going to Pyeongchang for the Olympics in February.
When are those qualifiers for you?
There's 5. There's 5 qualifiers, and we have one of them was in Mammoth the season past, and then so there's 4 more starting in December. Copper Mountain is the first one. Right into Dew Tour and Breck is a qualifier as well, and then we have a little break for Christmas, and then back at it right after that.
Nice, man. That's awesome. Give me 1 second. I'm just looking. I wrote down questions, and now I can't find them in my notebook. So those qualifiers are coming up. Breck and Copper are probably like a month out, something like that.
Yeah, just over. It's crazy because it's warm here, but they're coming up soon for sure.
Yeah, totally. I think Breck is. I think they opened up a little bit ago. I'm not even too sure. I tore my ACL in February, had surgery in March, so I'm kind of just like not thinking about it quite yet.
Yeah, trying not to want to get out there on skis so you mess up your whole recovery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Man, I didn't realize that places were already open out there.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Loveland's open, A Basin's open. I
heard about, was it A Bay's was it Loveland or A Bay was their earliest opening ever?
A Basin, I think Loveland, it could have been their earliest as well. They're like right on the other side of the pass, from each other. It might have been Loveland's earliest opening, but A Basin was just before that. Something like that.
But it was like the earliest opening in like the traditional mountains in North America or something. Yeah, I read some article that was like, oh, wow, we're going to have the best season ever, which I hope is true.
Yeah, man. I hope so, too. It's been warm the last couple of days here in Crested Butte. That's where I live. Have you ever skied in Crested Butte?
I have not. No, I've spent a lot of time real close to there in Aspen, but and I have a good friend, Aaron Blunk, who hails from Crested Butte, but I have not skied there yet. It's on the list.
Yeah, definitely, man. If you make it out here, definitely hit me up.
Sounds good.
Got a place for you to stay, and yeah, man, it'd be sick to have you out here, show you around.
Yeah, hell yeah. I like to learn from the locals when I go places like that. So, absolutely.
Yeah. Totally, man. So you had success from like a pretty young age, which seems to happen a lot in halfpipe and in park. But you've had one of the things that I like idolize about you or think is so amazing about you is that you've had success not only in the skiing realm but also in personal life, and like you've kept it super professional and been what seems to me to be authentically you throughout your whole career. Like you haven't been afraid to be open about your religion and things like that. So can you when you were younger, did you have a vision of how you wanted your life to be, or like what has led you to have such a complete, and I know that like everyone has their struggles, everyone goes through stuff, but like to have such a complete life in the sport and outside of it?
Yeah, I honestly all I can say is I feel super grateful to the people who contributed to my journey along the way, because had I been left completely to my own devices, I may have just kind of fallen into the negativity. There's a lot of amazing things about the ski industry, and there's a lot of things that are not so awesome about it. And, my sisters and my mentors and even some of my most influential coaches in my life and stuff were really good at recognizing the good in skiing, and but also cautioning me about the bad, because the reality is skiing or culture or just humanity wants to make you like them. That's what people's goals are, because I would say most people, sadly, are not completely comfortable and confident with who they are, so they would prefer to make you like them rather than see you excel for who you are. And my mentors pointed that out to me at a young age, and luckily I was mindful enough to make a few mistakes and realize, hey, this isn't who I want to be. I don't want to let the ski industry dictate what I should act like or how I should be. I'm not going to do what people want me to do. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it because I love it, because I enjoy it, and I'm going to take the good and I'm going to let go of the bad, and I'm just going to keep rolling. That's just the kind of person I am. Anybody who knows me very well knows that like I can't do the fake thing. I'll if I don't like you or we don't get along, I'll tell you. And if I like you, my loyalty is like, I'll die for you. So I just like have this level of genuinity that I try to strive for in life, and I can't be ingenuine in anything I do, and it hurts me. It really does. It hurts me a lot of the time because people want you to put up this facade. Your sponsors want you to be the most arrogant, in their face, talk and make noise, make waves, and that's just not who I am. I'd rather let my skiing speak for me, and just enjoy the ride than be worried about how people perceive me. I try to share the journey as best I can and get people stoked, but I also don't really worry about it if they're not, because I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me.
Yeah. Totally, man. Yeah, I was looking at interviews just because I didn't want to be repetitive in this, and I was actually really surprised for how much success you've had and like how much you dominated the industry for so long that there weren't more interviews that I could find with you. And I think part of that is because would seem to me to be because you're not out there trying to be just another personality or just another, like, you're not there, like you said, to make noise, or you're making waves in a way that to me is parallel to kind of the way that Candide makes waves, with few words and with just actions and living genuinely through your passions and your skills and not needing to open your mouth to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, it's super respectable, especially, I don't think that it like you said, from an outside perspective, it doesn't look like it's something that would be genuine or authentic to you to do that.
Right.
And it is easy, I think, in the sport to see so many other people doing that and being like, oh well, maybe like I'll maybe I should.
It's tempting because I mean the reality is being a man of few words costs me dollars at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hardcore kind of sad reality of the ski industry is if you're not the most in your face on Instagram at all times, hype man, then the sponsors just don't pay you the bucks. So it is tempting sometimes to just be like, well, maybe I'll just be what they want me to be so that I can make a few more dollars. But at the same time, that's where I was talking about my mentors earlier, and just the people who have contributed to my journey. I just feel so like there's so much more to life than money. I mean, I feel pretty grateful to have what I have. I get to do what I love for a job, and yeah, I could be making more money. I'm probably one of the lower paid guys in the top 10 in the pipe game right now, just because of my style. I'm a militant competitor. I'm a man of few words, and so yeah, it doesn't convert to dollar signs, but it converts to contentment and happiness for me. I'd rather be broke and happy than rich and miserable.
Yeah, totally. And I think living like that leads to more genuine relationships, which ultimately, relationship and community is what will make us happy and make us really truly feel fulfilled and accomplishing, what we know we're meant to do, what we're here to do.
Yeah, and it's extremely important on top of that the relationships, at least for me, and this is where my philosophy comes in, is the relationships that you do have to be with your real self. Like a term that I use a lot in my conversations is the imposter. And there was a time in my life when I basically created this facade of who I was, and I was cocky and I was over the top, and I didn't treat women very well, and it was an imposter that I was creating and presenting to people. It's like a veneer you put over yourself, and So I have nothing but pity for people who live their lives as that imposter, because even the relationships that you have aren't real, and I think that that's where a lot of, I mean, we have such a huge problem with depression and anxiety in our society. I think a main source of that depression and anxiety is that most people are living as the imposter version of themselves rather than the real version. The reality is, you may have less friends for being you, but the friends you do have are actually friends with you, you know?
Yeah, and like you said, you would take a bullet for them, and they would take a bullet for you, and those kind of relationships, especially I think when you're venturing out into the backcountry, and when when you need to have a crew that is going to save you no matter what,
is going to save you or die trying. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
And that's like, it's huge, and it speaks. I think the backcountry breeds a huge amount of humility and a huge amount of authenticity, because there's something about like nature that I feel like weeds that out of people a little bit. And
it kicks your ass.
Right. Yeah, it'll put you in your place if you're being too egotistical and if you think that you're bigger than it or better than it, or yeah, man. And I think that it was one of the reasons why I chose to compete in big mountain versus park when I left ski racing. Was I spent time in the Summit County parks, and man, it was just like everyone was hating on everyone, and like no matter what you're doing, it's not good enough, it's not cool enough. And I think some of that has changed, and there's a little bit more teamwork and more support in kind of these niched cliques, or like you get your film crew, and then you have people that are kind of stoked for you, but then there's still some rival,
It's a scene out there for sure.
Totally. Yep. And I think with our generation having the social media access and lifestyle that we do, it is super easy to kind of it's so easy to say one thing on social media and it not to be true in any way, shape, or form.
Totally.
And I think that definitely does lead to a lot of, you end up isolating yourself, from your true self.
Yep.
And you can't keep up with the lies, or you can't keep up with, like what you want to be doing versus what you think you should be doing. And yeah, man, I've definitely been there with the women aspect of it, with the social media aspect of it, and it becomes really trying. And like once you suffer that enough, and you have enough alone time to think about it, at least that was for me, once I had enough alone time to be like, okay, what do I really truly want out of life? Like relationship with my family, relationship with good friends, to be able to ski until I'm 50. It's not about pulling the triple flip now on a 50% Russian roulette sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, end up, like you met Scotty Williams through the Facebook group. He, has had surgery because of epilepsy and having seizures and having too many concussions. And, he was out there always, just hammering it home. And he's an amazing dude. He has been just an awesome guy. But I think that a lot of it was bred out of this needing to be more than maybe he was in the moment. And man, social media, or like the pressures, it's all a war against yourself, I feel like.
Yeah.
And social media can make that pressure even more.
Yeah, like you said, the reality is you can be whoever you want to be on social media. I mean, I had a conversation with a guy that I was trying to an Instagram name that I was trying to buy, And like he was just like, oh man, no worries, man. Like it's totally gonna work out. And I finally like wrote him a message. I was like, dude, listen, you could be a 300-pound Asian woman for all I know. You know, like I have no idea who you are. You know who I am because I'm a public figure, but I have no idea who you are. And like that's just true of everybody, even of your public figures that you follow. I would say that most of the time, this is just an industry standard. 90% of the time, the photos that you're liking on Instagram that your favorite skiers are posting aren't from that day or even that week. They're all farmed out. You know, it's a content campaign. They have their PR people who say, okay, this is when your posts do well. This is what, you know, these are the types of posts that you get the most traction with. So we're going to strategically place these things. And it's all a game, man. And so for me, I struggle and strive to be as authentic as I can in my social media as well as in my everyday life. And the reality is that ends up meaning that I post few things because I speak rarely as it is in my everyday life too. So that doesn't convert, like I said, to being a very good social media figure, but it's who I am, you know?
Totally. And I think, you know, you're one of the few people in the industry who I feel like is a true role model, especially like as a leader, as a masculine leader. And, you know, I think that there definitely are others out there, but I find it very admirable that you have stayed so true. And, you know, I'll probably say this a million times on the podcast, but, you know, I just think that, you know, it's something that we need right now in society is like these masculine leaders to
who aren't douchebags.
right, who are out there, you know, supporting others. One thing that I've seen in the female ski community that I was talking to McKenna Peterson about last week was like the females have rallied around each other together, and they have created these like she jumps and these groups where it's a real supportive community. There isn't competition necessarily. Mm-hmm. They're out there, you know, pushing their limits safely and with this maturity that right. I think we're trying as males in the community are like need to step up and match and you know really find the way to be supportive of each other. Competition breeds a lot of amazing things. Mm-hmm. And you know it pushes progression and pushes us to find the limits on our body and find the limits in our mind and find how to you know where that edge is. But I, you know, in the end I really think it is all about community. That's the thing that has provided me with the most satisfaction, the most happiness out of skiing is finding like-minded individuals who I can relate to instantly and, you know, like call my brother or, you know, like it's about going out and spending the time and sharing the moment, not one-upping.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up in this conversation because I had no intention or plan to talk about philosophy in this, but I mentioned the imposter philosophy earlier, and I think that plays a huge role in this like I think that imposter mentality plays a huge role in male athletics, just society-wide, but especially in individual sports, because you have to pretend to be what people expect of you or what people want of you all the time, and that comes across and we've become so afraid to show weakness. You know, we've become so afraid to admit when we're wrong or when we make a mistake. You know, and especially being a young dad. One of the main things that I strive for raising kids is just to admit when I'm wrong, because I mess things up all the time, you know. And so yeah, I agree with you. I think we need to be more vulnerable, really, and that's why I am who I am. That's why I engage the culture the way that I engage it is because I have no interest in pretending I'm more than I am. I have no interest in pretending that I'm the best human that's ever walked this face. I mean, the reality is in athletics, we have a ton of examples of guys who pretend to be perfect. And we don't need any more of that. We need more real people who are just like, hey, I love doing this and I want to share it with you. I'll share with you the mistakes as well as the triumphs, because every triumph I have comes with 1,000 mistakes. I only succeed because I've failed 1,000 times. That's one of my favorite Michael Jordan quotes. He always talked about how when people ask him, well, how can you perform so well under pressure? He's like, well, because I messed it up last time. So I learned from that mistake, and that's why I know how to conquer that particular mistake. I've missed 1 million shots in my life, and the same thing for me. I've crashed in 1 million contest runs in my life, and I'll continue to crash in contest runs when some rogue element that I didn't expect comes my way. But as soon as that happens, I'm going to learn from that mistake, and I'll be better off going into the next one. So, yeah, I think – and it's nice to talk to you about this, because I think it is missing, and I would like to see a movement towards more vulnerability and just realism in our sport, because we don't. You talked about the concussion thing, and that's a major factor in what we do, especially in the parks, on the park skiing side, and it's in the big mountain side as well. I mean, guys slam their head and hike back up to the top and do it again. And the reality is, like, that has a lot more repercussions than we've realized in the past. And that goes along with the facade, is like, oh no, I'm fine. I'm not hurt. I'm like, this isn't a problem. I'm totally fine. I didn't make a mistake. It's like, no, you did make a mistake. You crashed. You were unconscious. Like, admit it. Take a day off, take a couple weeks off, and come back at this with a fresh mind, Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a factor for me. I've had more concussions than any human should, at this point in my career. And I would say that most of the pipe guys I compete with are in the same boat. So I'm definitely taking an active role in watching my brain and how it performs, and being really cautious of taking unnecessary risks, because I'm like you. I want to ski in my 50s. I want to be able to. My goal is to never let my kids beat me at anything. I want to be able to, like, just keep up with them as long as I possibly can, and not being able to speak or walk are two things that aren't on my list of goals. So yeah, I'm just kind of striving to just, like you said, mitigate risk as best I can. I'm still an action sports guy. I'm still going to keep pushing. That's who I am. I got into free skiing because I loved taking risks, and I am where I am because I've taken a lot of risks in my life, and I've worn the bruises and scars for it. But I've also gotten a lot of cool opportunities because of it. So I'm kind of tiptoeing this fine line between risk and reward always. Trying to find what is the most calculated way to take these risks, and just keep moving forward. Yeah, but I think we definitely could be a lot more supportive of each other, and a little bit less cool. That's the reality, and that's probably why like I talked about earlier. That's probably why I don't get the sponsorship dollars that everybody else gets, is because I'm not so damn cool. Like, I am who I am. I'm not going to pretend to be cooler than I am. I'm not that cool. I'm a nerd, man. Like, part of the reason I'm good at competition is because I'm a strategic nerd. I look at everything. I see everything, and I approach it from this militant standpoint of, okay, what do I need to do to be the best skier I can possibly be? And that's not really that cool, Like, if you're really cool, you just live on talent alone. You wake up in the morning and you just bask in glory all day long. That's being really cool. And to me, I'm just not that. Like, it's all a strategy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it all depends on your perspective, because I think that it's so cool that you take this militant aspect, because that's something that, like, I had a really big problem with alcohol and drugs for a long time. And I, screwed up in areas of my life with women, and, got myself into trouble with the law and stuff like that. And now in the last year, I've taken this militant approach where I'm working out with a personal trainer. I'm, researching nutrition, and I'm experimenting with a ketogenic diet and, other diets, and, reading books about how to optimize my testosterone. We're pretty much the same age. I was born in April, and I think you were born in June.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
90.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy. But yeah, I think part of maybe what we can do together as a group of the people who, find value in this and find this to be cool is to make it cool to be the intelligent, vulnerable, little bit more humble and quiet, masculine figure in the industry, and make it cool to try and I started a company called Academy of Skiing, which is an online resource for people to learn how to ski. And one thing that I'm trying to do is make what the pros do more relatable to the meat and potatoes of who actually supports the industry, which is tourists. And they look at what you or I or other people, Aaron Blanc or, Ian McIntosh or, whoever it is, what they're doing now, and it seems so unattainable that it's unrelatable.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of driving sales, you'll drive sales in the new schoolers for forums or, in the Mount Hood scene, you'll drive sales with the cool kid aspect that you kind of have talked about. But, I think that there is a huge opportunity for us in the industry to speak to the tourists and to make it a venue for pushing personal boundaries and personal limits, no matter what those, what that is, and conquering yourself in the way of, admitting exactly. I wrote a blog article about this. It's like admitting exactly where you're at in the moment. And once you admit exactly what you're capable of right now, then all of a sudden you become limitless because you can figure out how to go from here to here. Yeah, exactly. And it needs to be cooler for skiers to be in the gym. I feel like
we would, our longevity would increase drastically.
Totally. I don't. Have you ever had any serious knee injuries or serious injuries that have kept you out for a season or a season-ending injury?
Yeah, I've been right. I've worn the ACL twice, and I dislocated my hip. I mean, I was full send as from age 11 when I started free skiing to about 19 when I had my first knee injury. I was just on full send at all times. I was breaking collarbones, and I always had kind of the more minor injuries. What we as skiers see as minor injuries. A broken collarbone keeps you out for three to 6 weeks. Yeah. And so you're like, well, had to take a 3 to 6 week break. Now I'm right back at it. So I had quite a few of those as a youngster. And then when I had my first ACL, I realized, oh man, my approach has got to change, because this sitting on the couch for an entire year is not fun. This sucks. And so, I grew up as a baseball and football player as well. Growing up in Reno, that was kind of the cool thing, is the fact that Reno's always below. We get snow in the city, but it's kind of like Denver and Salt Lake. We get snow in the city occasionally, but we're a year-round active city. So I played football and baseball growing up, and soccer, and so the gym wasn't really a foreign place for me, even once I had my first knee injury. But once I had that knee injury, I was like, okay, I really need to take this more seriously. I need to figure out, I need to not just work out so I can be kind of strong. I need to figure out what kind of athlete I want to be. And right now for me, that long-term approach to how I want to train my body has kind of gotten really fine-tuned to where I kind of know my body to such a degree that I know exactly what weight I should be going into the season. I know exactly how much. I know what my body's capable of. I mean, I'm always trying to push that and make it capable of a little bit more than it was last year. But over the last couple of years, being on the U.S. ski team and stuff, I know exactly how much force I can exert when I'm really in good shape, and I know exactly how light I should be. So I'm trying to find this balance. I kind of have a linebacker's build. I just think about lifting weights and I put on muscle, which most people are like, man, that's a great problem to have. As a skier, it's not a great problem to have because I get heavy really quickly, and I'm always strong and heavy, but at some point that takes a toll on your joints. So I'm trying to be as light as I possibly can be, which pretty much means I don't get to drink beer. I got to lay off the cheese, and I have to run or ride my bike every day that I possibly can, because I want to be as strong as I am. I want to be as strong as I'm used to being so that I can exert enough force to do these double corks and crazy tricks that I'm doing. I'm not willing to give up that strength, but the strength combined with the lightness is a really challenging mix for me. But that's just my journey. Every athlete's different. Some guys might really need to spend time in the gym just absolutely bulking up as much as they possibly can. Everybody's journey is different. That just happens to be mine, and it's kind of a fun thing to do. It doesn't sound fun maybe when I talk about it, but it really is. It's kind of a challenge. It's like what do I want my body to be, and how can I approach that? Like you said, what steps do I need to take? And going back to what you said earlier about us as industry leaders, inspiring not just the people in our subculture, because we're like, skiing is a subculture of life, and then free skiing is a subculture of skiing, and then inside free skiing there's big mountain, slopestyle, half pipe, rails, urban, everything. There's so many subcultures in that. So rather than just inspiring our subculture of skiers, we should be taking the approach of inspiring skiers in general, and inspiring people who aren't skiers to be skiers, because the reality is we were all kooks at one point,
Right.
There was a time when I could barely do a 360. There was a time before I even could do a 360. There was a time every time I hit a jump, I'd fall on my ass.
Yep.
And somebody or something got me through that to where I am now. And so if we all just approach it with humility and say, hey, I wasn't always as good at this as I am, and something got me into this, and this sport is worth it. This sport is worth sharing with the world, and just kind of approach it from that standpoint, I think the sales would go back up. I think that more people would start skiing again, because we're in a kind of a lull in skiing and snowboarding, where less and less people are skiing because they're like, well, it's so expensive, this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, it's expensive, but it's worth it. It's one of those things. It's like, do you want to eat McDonald's your whole life, or do you want to eat something that's a little bit better for you? I think skiing's worth it. Yeah, it's costly in the grand scheme of things, but it's a cost that will bring you some of the most joy you could ever experience.
Yeah, totally. And even if you're only making one trip a year, and you're only buying a pair of skis every couple years, but they'll work for you, or yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there are ways to make it work. Trust me, I have been a ski bum. So I know the art of the ski bum.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, you can make it work if you want to, if you're motivated.
Yeah.
You can go to ski swaps and buy. I mean, man, you can buy skis for like $20 at ski swaps. Yep. They're not going to be the best skis ever, but they're going to get you down the hill.
Totally.
In the 70s, they skied on skis that were 75 underfoot and 210, and they still love skiing.
Right? Yeah, totally, man. Side note from what you said earlier, like, what is your goal weight? Like, what do you shoot for weight wise?
I'm just shy of 6'1", and I want to be 185.
Okay.
That's like fighting weight. And it's kind of funny. I just got back from Switzerland. I was in Switzerland for 3 weeks. And the month of June, I set a personal goal. I was like, for June, I'm going to either run or ride my bike every single day. And I logged over 30,000 vertical feet in the month. And it was a good month. It was a good challenge because I'm like, this is my year. I need to really focus on getting to this weight. So after the month of June, I got down. I was still, like I said, strong, but I was getting real light. I was like 187. And I was like, okay, 187, this is good. I just got to keep chipping away because I don't want to just not eat and get light because that defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah.
So I still have to be performance eating, which means eating a ton of calories, working out, staying real strong, but then staying light. So I was like, okay, rest of the summer I can kind of just, keep doing what I'm doing, keep chipping away at it. So by August, by the end of August, I got down to like 183, 184. I was like, okay, I got some flex room. This is perfect. 3 weeks in Switzerland, I'm right back up to 192. It's like, because I was, eating cheese and, not doing as much cardio as I was. And it's hard to balance. It's especially hard. It's one thing in the off season to balance strength training and cardio training. But it's a whole different game to balance skiing, which is like a long, I don't even know how to quantify skiing. It's kind of a mix of endurance and explosive like power.
Yeah, it's like plyo lifting, like you get these massive G's, so it's kind of like lifting, but then you kind of get winded at the end of a run, but you're not quite. Yeah,
you're not really ever one or the other. When I'm in good shape, I'm never super winded at the end of a run, nor do I ever feel like I exerted as much power as I possibly could. So it's kind of in the middle. But you do that for 6 hours, and then you go home and try to get a strength workout in, and you forget about it, or try to go down and go for a 2 mile, 3 mile run. It's really challenging. So I'm right back up to 192. I got some work to do. Get back down to 185 by December.
Yep. That's awesome. See, I am on the other end of things where I'm 6 foot. I weighed 155 pounds in May, and I'm up to 170 now.
Nice.
Which is quite a bit of weight gain in a short amount of time. And it's pretty much all muscle, which I'm pretty, super stoked on.
Yeah.
But if I lay off the lifting at all, I will go back to 160,
just
that.
Boom. It's so funny. It's like your body is trying to tell you, no, this is how I want to be.
Yeah.
Like this is what's natural to me, and mine is I'm like a 210 build. Like I would just if I just lived my life and didn't really focus on it, I would be 210 easy.
Yeah. It's so funny how bodies are different. And I think that it, to speak to one of the things that you said, it's fun. I think once you conceptualize the ability to shape your body in a certain way, and that when you put in consistent effort and you really think about it and you do things in a certain way that, you're not just locked in. We kind of are locked into how our bodies are made to be. It's harder for me to gain weight and it's harder for you to lose weight. That's the paradigm that our body sits in. But once you conceptualize the fact that you can make a difference in that and you're not truly locked into it, it's just the battle that you get to fight, it becomes really fun because then you're like, okay,
it's
well,
a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's can I pull this off? And it's usually for me, my goals are always just on the fringe of unattainable.
Yep.
It'd be if I was to be totally honest with myself, probably 190 is good enough. And that 190 while still being able to press 500 pounds, the force plate 500 pounds. That's probably good enough. But I don't really want to set an easy goal. I don't want to set a reasonable goal that's like, oh, well, that just makes sense for you. I'm like, no, I want to be that 0.01 percentage I want to be in that level of performance. I don't want to just be in the top 10%.
Yeah, or the 0.1. Yeah, the 0.01.
Yeah, I want to be 0.01.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be 1 in a million. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. And I think that from an outsider perspective, I would think that kind of determination, like it's past motivation and it's even past commitment. It's like conviction is like really like how I would attribute it. And I think that to me, and I would love to know your opinion, but like you dominated 2012, 2013, 2014, you just crushed. And I think very few people, even in the top of the sport, share that same mindset. And I think that that's probably one of those things that, was a factor in your success. But I would love to know how you feel about that, and what other factors you think have led you to the success that you've had.
Yeah, I think that's honestly one of the things that is maybe most intimidating about me to my fellow competitors, is because I don't go out and just cruise the same way that they do. It's not all about, I have a ton of fun skiing half pipe, but it's not all about fun for me. And a lot of the personality types that excel in skiing are the guys who just go out there and, man, they're just having the best time. And I applaud those guys. But for me, it's a strategy. It's an approach. It's a constant need to be. It's a desire to be the best that I can be. My wife will tell you, like, she would rather I didn't ever pick up another hobby, because when I pick something up, it's all or nothing. I either won't do it at all, or I want to be the absolute best I can be at it. So I'm constantly like, oh man, this is really cool. This is fun. And like, how good can I get at this? And that's how I've approached skiing my whole career. It's not necessarily for me about competing with everyone else. It's about competing with myself.
Yep.
There was definitely, even going from, you mentioned kind of, I had a hot streak from 2011 through 14. And then in 2015, I actually didn't get to do the run that I wanted to do in Sochi in 14. And so that was a personal goal for me. And so there was a new trick that I wanted to do. I went into X Games in 15, and people are like, man, your run from last year is still going to win all the contests this year. And I was just like, yeah, but why would I want to do that?
Yep.
They're like, well, because you could win, and that's winning. And I'm like, what do I care? What do I care for another gold medal? It's really seriously, at the end of the day, and then people would hear me say that and say that that's unreality. That's me just blowing smoke, but it's true. Of course, I want to win a bunch more gold medals, but I want to do it in my fashion, not in just good enough. So I tried the right side dub 14 right in the middle of my run and messed it up 3 times. Well, I landed it on my first or second try and then fell on something else. And just three runs in a row messed it up. And that was a defining moment for me in my career, and where I think that my fellow competitors finally saw my heart as a skier, is because they realized you could have literally gone up even on your third run and done your last year's run, and they know I could have landed.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't. I tried it again. I was like, no, I came here to make a statement. I want to do this run, and I'm going to either do it or I'm not going to pull it off. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let loose, or I'm not going to let go of that. And I think that was the first time that people saw, okay, he really does practice what he preaches. He really does want to do things a certain way. And it gained so much more respect in my competitors' eyes, because they realized that's who I was. Before that, I always just said those things, and then I was like you said, I was in a hot streak. I was winning everything. They're like, yeah, it's great to say that, but you're just still winning everything. And how do we know any of that's true?
Yep.
Like, how do we know that you're not just winning the way you're not just winning? And so that was actually a good thing. And these last 2 like super challenging seasons for me have gotten me to a really good place where I'm at right now. It's interesting because I'm having a ton of difficulty with sponsors right now. The industry in general is in a tough place.
Totally.
contest skiers are not being recruited the way that they used to be. Even the guys who are getting signed aren't getting signed for the dollars that they used to. It's tough. It's tough out there. But it's been especially tough for me after these last 2 years, and I'm just laughing about it. I mean, that's my approach to it. Is I'm like, I'm just going to take you guys might not want to sign the checks, but man, I really am in the healthiest possible place that I could be going into this season, because it was good for me to get my ass kicked for a couple years. It was good for me to have some struggles to overcome, because now that I'm back to healthy, the last 2 X Games in a row, I couldn't rotate my back past like 30 or 40 degrees. It was just stuck. And so I tried. I'm a militant guy. I try to do it anyways. I was like, all it takes is one run. You just got to land one.
Yeah.
And I went out there and gave her everything I had, but I fell short. So now being 100% healthy feels like 150%, man. It just feels so good. And I'm so excited. I have this fire that I haven't had for a while. So it's just ironic, because the things that the people who don't understand that are saying is like, well, you've struggled for a couple of years. You're fading now. You're at the tail end of your competitive career. We'll pick the young up and comer who's going to kick your ass. And I'm like, all right, go right ahead and watch what happens, because this is enjoyable to me. Like, I love being the dark horse. I'm right where I want to be.
Totally. Yeah, man. And I think that kind of personality trait of it's like stoicism, where like you let the challenge make you better. And instead of wanting things to be easier, you want to be better to rise to the occasion. And that, it's kind of, like you were talking about, people that want to have fun all the time. I think something in our culture right now is we associate comfort with fun. And for the people who really truly succeed in all areas of life, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's skiing, half pipe skiing, whether it's wrestling, whatever it is, it's those people who find it fun when there's a challenge, find it to be enjoyable when something is challenging them to be better, instead of when they can get complacent.
Yeah.
And that, man, it's something that, I've learned in the last 2 years. I broke my back a year and a half ago, and then tore my ACL this year. And it has made it's been rough, but it has made me so much better as a person, because I took them as signs that I needed to get better, that I was not doing the right things, that there were decisions I was making and ways that I was acting, habits that I had that weren't beneficial for me, that were actually, they weren't aligned with the goals that I have, and the dreams that I have for myself. And instead of succumbing to, okay, I'm injured, I could party now, and I could, let it, I can take this time off, and, instead I redoubled my efforts. And now I'm so ultimately stoked about who I am. It's not like I know that I'm going to see results in this season, and in my efforts, and in everything that I'm doing right now. And it's only because I let the injuries make me better, and the suffering make me better. And I think that people think
there's 2 different ways to react to difficulty in life, to challenges. You either get bitter, or you overcome them, and you use them as building blocks. Obstacles in your path are either going to lift you up, or they're going to knock you down.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it'll, I think that's where you see people's true character. I think it's awesome that you talked about the imposter philosophy, and then you're talking about how people weren't sure who you were, and how, what other people could have perceived as failure with not continuing that streak actually let you shine, your personality shine, and let your truth be heard. And now you get to come back and you get to be like, okay, what's up, guys? Here I am again.
Yeah. What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. It was because I was so unique in the industry, and always pretty understated about it. I never talked about why I was doing the things that I was doing. I never talked about why I didn't hang out with them at the bars. I never told anybody what my philosophy was or why I didn't enjoy those things or anything, because I didn't really care to. I was just like, you either like me or you don't. Take it or leave it. It's all good. That's why I kind of got this bad rap as like this arrogant, he's so cocky he won't even talk about how cocky he is. Or there was just like, people just saw me as this super fierce, intimidating guy who only cared about winning. And the reality was that I never cared that much about winning. I just cared about being the best skier I could be. So once I truly proved that to them, like you said, through what some people would see as failure, but I look at it as some of my greatest success. That was when people realized, okay, he's just different. And then they just accepted it. And now I'm looking forward to the game right now is in such a fun place. It's kind of a shame that pipe skiing, even maybe contest skiing in general, is kind of getting such a bad rap right now. And like I said, the industry's not super supportive of us anymore, and all that nonsense. Because really, I think the state of the game, as far as an athlete perspective, it's the most fun. It's this season is going to be the most fun it's ever been, because we have so many talented riders right now. It really is anyone's game. Yeah. I had my reign of terror, but my reign of terror is over. And nobody else. No, it's not like my reign of terror ended and somebody else's began. It's not the Shaun White's like situation that they had in snowboarding for so many years. Really, on any given day, there's about 10 dudes who could take down any contest. And it's just so fun. It's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. The U.S. team, just qualifying for the Olympic team, just being in the top 4 in the U.S. this year is going to be one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my career. It's literally going to be that hard, and that's what makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, man, totally. It's pretty awesome seeing, everyone down in New Zealand sticking new tricks left and right. Mm-hmm. And Alex Ferreira has been crushing it. He's right up there. Who would you say are your main, you said that there's, probably 10 people, but just a few names, like who is looking really good right now to you?
I would say that my biggest competition, not to take anything away from the people who are American, not to take anything away from them, but I would say my biggest competition in the world right now are all Americans.
Okay.
And I think that comes from, I just had a conversation with somebody about this, so my thoughts are pretty in line, and I kind of know what I think about this now. I think that comes from the fact that we as Americans, especially American free skiers, have decided to not do it the way anybody else is doing it. Whereas I think some of the other countries that we're competing with have approached it from a perspective of, okay, this is the run that's winning. How can we do that? And they almost have copied my old runs. And in a sense, it's like, why are you doing that? Like, he's been doing that already for a long time, And so the guys that I'm most scared of are the guys who go out there and do it the way they want to do it. Aaron Blunk is a perfect example.
Dude, love Aaron.
When he started doing that switch left dub 9 to switch right dub 10 combo, the coaches, myself, everybody told him, that's unnecessary. You don't have to do that.
Yep.
And he was like, I don't care what you think,
but I'm going
to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do it because I want to. And Alex Ferreira, same way. He's like, I'm going to ski the way I want to ski. and I'm going to try to make it look as different as I possibly can. And those things that really define a skier, especially a contest skier, as unique, are so important. So I would say my main, like the people I'm most scared of right now: Gus Kenworthy, Aaron Blunk, Alex Ferreira, and Tornator Wallace.
Yep.
Those are the guys I got to beat to get on the damn team.
Yep.
You know, it's like those are the guys. So if I beat one of those dudes and get on the team, then going to the Olympics is going to be cruising, and we're all going to be going out there having such a good time.
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from the Frenchies and the Canadians, because those guys I'm scared of too. But I think that we as Americans are the industry leaders because of that approach that we've always had. Aaron saw what I was doing, and he said, "Man, that's cool what Dave's doing. I'm gonna do something else." Yep. Alex is the same way. Gus is the same way. He's like, okay, how do I want to ski through a half pipe? And we've all taken our own style of skiing to the apex, to as high as we can get it. And so that's what makes it unique. That's what makes it interesting to watch. I would say the Kiwis do a really good job of doing that as well. They, like right now in half pipe, we have a couple of rogues, like Joel Gisler is from he's Swiss, and there's a couple of Austrians that are competing, but mostly it's the big four. It's the US, Canada, France, and New Zealand. Those are the main four countries we have competing. And I would say the US and New Zealand are the two countries that have taken the unique skiing approach. And the Canadians, some of the Canadians, I mean, Noah Bowman's a super unique skier and does really unique tricks. I would say the same about Simon D'Artois. So that's maybe a little bit untrue. But as a whole, I would say that they've taken the approach of doing what's being done and doing it well. Yeah. And I think that that's been actually detrimental to both France and Canada in the grand scheme of things. So, but what do I know? Those guys might be out there training, doing something totally different that I have no idea. And that's what makes it interesting.
Totally. Do you think we'll ever see a triple in the pipe?
I mean, will we see it? Yeah. Sure. It's going to happen. Yep. I've taken a pretty strong stance against it.
Yep.
And you know, anybody who's checking this out can look up my. I've written kind of an expose on the whole thing. I'm not doing triple corks personally, not because I don't think I can do them or they're scary, but because I don't think it's good for the industry.
Love that.
I think that we're at the state already of kind of this fine line between order and chaos. And we mentioned the concussion thing earlier. A lot of pipe skiers have a lot of concussions. It's one of the easiest things to do in pipe because a lot of times when you catch your edge going real fast, you're not going to break bones or even always torque ligaments or whatever, but you're going to hit your head. And so as far as longevity goes, I don't think it'd be good for a kid to start doing triple corks in the half pipe at 12 years old.
Totally.
Because they're not going to keep skiing for very long after that. Because yeah, it's totally possible. Especially, I mean, man, if you build me a 26-foot half pipe instead of a 22-foot half pipe, totally. I'll do a triple cork. I can do triple corks on jumps. It's not that big of a stretch, but your takeoff has to be absolutely perfect. Yep. And when you're flipping around 3 times, there's so much happening, and it's so easy to just mess that takeoff up a little bit and either launch yourself into the flats, and then you're coming down with 3 flips worth of torque into the flats, or you send yourself onto the deck, the classic pipe skier crash, you know, either just into the coping or way onto the flats, whatever it is, the deck is deadly. And so the risk versus reward just they just aren't there for me. Is it going to be done? Yes. Some person is gonna be the selfish one who says, I want to do this because it's good for me.
Yep. And
that's where I drew the line, because I had thought about it. I started sizing it up. I've visualized triples. I've thought about it. I've done it on the airbags. It's definitely within reach if I wanted it to be. But I realized if I made that decision, it would be for me. It would be a decision for me because of the hype that would go along with it. David Wise does the first triple cork and a half pipe.
Yep.
And that would honestly be a good thing for me. That would be a good thing PR wise and just visibility wise, all those things. But it wouldn't be a good thing for skiing in general. And at this point, I'm super fortunate. I've had an amazing career. I don't need any more titles, and I don't really need any more attention. If I never get more attention, I feel like I've had a sufficient amount as it is. So I have decided, and in my approach to skiing as well, I've decided to stop pushing the limits in ways that I don't think are good for the sport. I try to have. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still a competitor. I'm still fierce, and I want to win. But I try to have an approach of what I try to be aware of what I'm doing, what effect what I'm doing has on the industry. And I think that if more athletes could be a little bit more mindful of that, we would be in a healthier place collectively. Because I don't know that these young guys I compete with all the time really realize how much effect we have. I mean, we are the trendsetters, and a lot of times they allow. I say they. I'm going to include myself in that because I've definitely been guilty of this, and probably will be guilty of it in the future. We definitely do allow the industry and the judges and our fellow competitors and whoever to tell us what we should do. And whether you admit it or not, it makes its way into your psyche when somebody tells you to do something. It makes your way into your psyche when you do what you think is the best run of your life, and the judges say, no, that's a 75 or an 85 or whatever. That's not that good. It definitely affects you. But the reality is, if you can take who you are and what you want to do and just pin it to the absolute max, that is going to get the judges' respect without you needing to compromise. So instead of compromising and trying to do what they expect of you or what they hope for from you, just do what you want to do and make it look flawless, make it look amazing, and you're going to get that respect anyways. So that's kind of my approach to skiing. I always try to do, especially in pipe runs, I don't want to get too technical because nobody really cares unless you're a pipe rider. But I try to do a different axis or a different direction of spinning on every single hit. I feel like we have 5 hits and a half pipe, and we've been skiing for long enough. We should be able to spin 5 different ways. So it's either forwards left, forwards right, alley-oop, or switch left, switch right. I try to make it. It doesn't always work out that way, depending on the day, depending on how I'm feeling, depending on the conditions. I don't always do it, but I try to do 5 different axes every time I compete. And we have occasionally we'll compete in six hit half pipes, and if we have a 6 hit half pipe, I'll try to do 6. And that's my approach to skiing. So instead of saying, what more doubles can I do, or how can I have probably 12 doubles in the half pipe now. Yep. 12 different doubles. And instead of saying, okay, how can I take those 12 and fit them into a run that has all doubles, I say, how can I do a run that's 5 different directions of spinning with the tech tricks? So, I may do 4 in a 5 hit half pipe. There may come a day when I do 4 doubles. But there's always going to be a style trick in the middle there, because I think it's just as important to be able to show that you can rotate real fast and you can rotate real slow. You can be technical and get good grabs even in hard tricks, but you also have to be able to slow it down and make it look just so damn fun. So that's my approach, and I think that if I leave a mark, if I could choose the mark that I leave on the industry, that would be what I would want to leave. And that's what I'm striving for as an athlete is, hey, do it your way and don't care what people think, go out there and make skiing cool again.
Yeah, totally. I think, the switch double to switch double that Aaron's doing is
Mm-hmm.
comparable to a triple flip, if not cooler than doing a triple flip off your first hit or your last hit, just because of the technical ability of what it involves. Switch to switch on the 9 is just nuts in a double.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So nuts.
And when he first started doing it, he took quite a few of them to 10.
Yep.
And me being the practical guy that I was like, why don't you just take that switch left dub to 10? It's easier, buddy. I'm like, because I can do both switch dub 9 and switch dub 10. My switch dub 9s are pretty god awful, so I don't do them very often. But I'm like, listen, man, that I can do both tricks. I promise you, the switch dub 10 is easier. And he wasn't interested in what was easier. He was interested in what he wanted to do. And I think that's so cool. That's when I shut my mouth. I'm like, all right, man, you do you. It's working.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, it's really hard to do what I was talking about. It's really hard to spin 5 or 6 different directions on every hit. And I've definitely suffered results wise, from time to time because I was striving for that. Whereas people are like, man, why don't you just make it easier on yourself? And the reality is I wouldn't be that content at the end of the day. It would feel like I settled. It's like, oh yeah, well, I couldn't get the run that I wanted, so I settled for the B run, and I won the contest or I got a podium or whatever. But the reality is one of the main reasons I've been successful actually for a long term period of time is because I stopped competing with everybody else and started competing with myself. Because I mean, the reality is as soon as I got the left dub 12 and only a couple guys in the game were doing it, and then when I got the left dub 12 and the switch dub, I could have cruised on that for a while, and I would have kept. I might not have been continuing to win everything, but I would have kept squeaking out podiums for quite a while.
Yep.
But instead, I didn't stop there. I kept looking. I kept moving, and doing right dub 12s. People always tell me, man, you did this. We didn't see that coming. We didn't think the game had advanced that far yet. Yep. And the reality is that's because I wasn't playing the game with you. I was playing the game with myself.
Yep.
I was playing wall ball. I was hitting the ball against the wall and having it come back at me real fast. So yeah, it's really interesting to see everybody's personality, how it plays out in the pipe skiing game, in the slopestyle game, man. I mean, this is my main opportunity to plug contest skiing this year, because there have been years when even myself as a contest rider was just like, man, this is the same damn thing we see all the time. But slopestyle right now with guys like Alex Hall and McCrae Williams and like just these super unique, stylish riders who are at the top of the game. It's so fun to watch right now. Even Big Air. I don't know if anybody caught the Sosh Big Air that went down in Annecy last month. Cool. It was so cool. A pre-safety dub 12 technically won it, but I think that as soon as he landed the pre-safety dub 9, everybody was just like, what? And he had already won at that point. In my mind, he had already won at that point. It's like just doing something totally different than it's ever been done before. So contest riding this year is in a place that it should be watched. So that's my shameless plug. Check us out because it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, man, definitely. Real quick, you talked about visualization and stuff like that. Do you have like a morning routine, evening routine? What kind of visualization do you do? What kind of I'm going to throw a lot of questions at you and you can choose which ones you want. What does your diet look like? And you already basically talked about your fitness routine, but I think it's lifting and a lot of cardio is basically what it is. But yeah, like what is visualization? Do you meditate, and like what is do you have a specific morning and evening routine? And does it differ when you're on the road? Stuff like that, things that you can pass along to maybe other young riders that want to figure out how to become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, the short answer to your question is yes. I do all of those things. I definitely have I have a morning routine which consists of kind of mindfulness, meditation, prayer, reading the Bible, reading 10, 15 minutes of something that I think is feeds my mind and feeds my spirit. Because the reality is we're all spiritual beings, whether, whatever we want to call it, we're all both physical and spiritual beings. And so I try to start my day off by getting my spirit right, because then my day goes so much better. A lot of times I will do some form of like relaxed, calming stretching or yoga or something like that. I'm describing the perfect day, which never actually happens, but this is what the perfect day would look like.
Yeah,
and then yeah, my visualization for me is real unique, and this is something I don't know if anybody else does it. I've talked about it quite a bit now, so maybe there's guys who are like, okay, if Dave's doing this and it seems to be working, maybe we should do it too. But I'll go into a big open space, kind of like this space that I have here. This is my entry room, but it's a pretty decent sized room. There's not a lot of obstacles for me to bump into. And I will actually put on blacked out goggles. So I have goggles that are the same goggles that I ski with, but the lenses are completely blacked out. So what that enables me to do is keep my eyes open, while not having these visual like stimulus going on. So, and then I will put myself. I try to do it for about an hour when I do. But if I can sneak out 15 minutes a day, that's great. And I will just think about what it is I want to do next. Like you talked about earlier, I figure out what are my goals, where do I want to be, and I'll just try to take small steps towards that. So, this year I'm trying to do switch right dubs in the pipe. So I will take that switch right dub and I'll break it down in my head, and I'll just see it over and over and over again. And then I'll visualize it. For me, visualization, I've been doing it for so long that I've kind of fine-tuned it to the point where instead of just visualizing doing it well, I'll actually visualize a bad takeoff, because it's inevitably going to happen that I have a bad takeoff. And so then I'll visualize, okay, how do I react to that bad takeoff? Okay, my takeoff's a little bit slow and I'm not rotating as fast as I want to be. What do I do to react? How do I still get the grab and make it around to my feet, even with a slow takeoff? And same thing with like an overly powerful takeoff. Okay, I'm gonna land at the bottom. How do I react to this? I set that with way too much snap. The last thing I want to do in the middle of a contest run is set a trick with way too much snap, get the grab, hold it for the first flip, and then do a big starfish on the second flip. So how do you make slowing the rotation down because you had a bad takeoff still look steezy? So I'll visualize that, kicking my leg out way far with a Japan, or putting my arm up in the air like I'm being steezy when really I'm actually just stretching, and trying to slow the rotation down. And then depending on how bored I get, I'll start visualizing different conditions, different half pipes, different localities. I've spent quite a bit of time in my head in Pyeongchang because we got the opportunity to go ski that half pipe this year. And one of the main advantages I felt that I had going into Sochi was that we competed in Sochi the year before. There's my little girl saying hello. Say hello to the world, Nelly Bug. Hi, Daddy. We went there and did a World Cup the year before, and I got my ass kicked. I had a bad run, and the conditions were super challenging, and I just kind of crumpled. And so I visualized those specific conditions a bunch because I had that like that red flag in my mind. I was like, okay, I need to be able to react to this bad. And that happened to be the exact conditions we competed in the Olympics. I was like, I've been here before. I've been here 1,000 times. I can do this. And it was insanely helpful. So so that my visualization goes to a lot of those levels where I'm trying to see different things and see different situations that I could be in and all of those things. So that's kind of my short, really long explanation of what I do for visualization. As far as in the gym, I really, and this is a body type thing too, I really don't spend a lot of time lifting super heavy weights because I'm already bulky as it is. I don't need to get any more bulky. Maybe I lift what some people would consider really heavy weights, but for me, that's not my goal. I don't do really high weight, low rep sets. I do a lot more of high intensity strength and agility things. Most of the things that I do, I have a strength coach that I've been working with for like 15 years now, and most of the things that he and I do either involve balance or sensory deprivation. A lot of the time he blindfolds me, or I'm on one foot, or my arms are behind my back, or I have to be in really compromised positions. I actually spend a lot of time training in like the most uncomfortable positions you could possibly be. Because the reality is everybody can land the perfect takeoff, like the tricks that when you took off perfect.
Yep.
But my preparation is for getting through the times that I messed up. And I could take you back to every contest that I've won and show you the flaws and show you where I messed things up and how I recovered from it. And the reality is no run is ever going to be perfect. So the speed with which you can react to those mistakes is insanely important. So most of the time, when I'm training, I'm landing on unstable surfaces.
Yep.
So we do a lot of things on Bosu balls and on balance boards and on just like spongy surfaces. We'll put a spongy surface with a little soap on it on some hardwood so that it's literally just like it's a platform that if you get off balance, just slip right out. Yep. And that's how I do most of my training is just being uncomfortable, being reactive. And my personal goal when he gives me when Max, my trainer, gives me an exercise like that is not only because he can see it from, okay, Dave needs to be able to react in these situations and pull this off, but he doesn't have the eye for the style of riding like I do. So he's doing one thing and he's motivated by one thing, and I am motivated by something else. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take what his goal is and try to make it look as steezy as I possibly can. Yep. And as flawless, as effortless as I can. So, I mean, I think that by now people have probably gotten a pretty good feel for how militant I am. Like these things are really, really strategic. Even my training, the way I eat my breakfast in the morning is strategic. You know, the way I do everything is strategic. And then, yeah, you mentioned I run a lot. I hate running. I really prefer riding mountain bikes, and that's my main kind of off season activity. I also there's my boy. I knew that the kids were going to find their way into this thing at some point.
I'm stoked, man, because you're such.
Say hello, guys.
Daddy, we're waiting for you to. We're gonna clean up our stuff, and then can we go to the new gym?
Yeah, we're gonna go to the gym after this as a crew.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
This is Malachi, and he is a bruiser.
Yeah.
Oh, he also likes to pretend he's a kitty cat.
What's up, Malachi? I wish you could hear me.
That's his favorite thing to do these days.
Yeah.
All right, hey, can you go see Mama?
Yeah.
Go meow at Mama. What was I saying? I was talking about nutrition. One of the other activities we talked about mindfulness and mental calmness for me is super important. Because I have a tendency, because I want to be the best I can, I have a tendency to overpressure myself and get a little caught up in being the best I can be, and a little bit stressed out by the things that are outside my control. So mental calmness is super important to me. So I started bow hunting. Actually, I started just plain shooting archery a couple right after the Olympics in Sochi, and that has become a huge. It's like my grounding activity that I do. I just go out and the balance between focus and relaxation of shooting a bow has been super helpful for me, because you have to be able to be doing a kind of a challenging activity while your heart rate is really low. Like somebody who shoots really well, the main factor to shooting really well is just being steady. There's a lot of technique involved in it, but the more steady you can be, the better. And that comes down to having a super low heart rate and good core and good just stability. So that's been a really fun activity for me. But on a nutritional side, in this house, we don't eat anything that basically that I didn't kill myself.
Awesome.
As far as meat goes, and I'm at a super high calorie intake level. Like when I'm really full bore training, I'll eat 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day.
Totally. That's what I've been at this summer for sure. And I was talking to someone.
It's challenging.
And they're like, no way. There's no way you're sustaining that. And I'm like actually, that's probably on the low side.
That's a conservative estimate. Yeah, for sure. And so when you're eating 4,000 to 6,000 calories a day, you really have to just eat a lot, for one thing. And so I can't be quite as idealistic about my eating as some other people. A girl who weighs 120 pounds and eats 1,500 calories a day, she can be really like organic about everything that she eats. She's like, well, I only eat, carrots that were harvested in the month of October and grown on a south-facing slope. Like for me, it's just quantity most of the time. It's a balance between quantity and quality. I try to eat the best food that I possibly can. That's where the game meat comes in. I don't eat a lot of things that have all these gnarly chemicals and steroids and stuff in them. So that's how I get my protein. And then and then it's trying to find, for me, because I've been doing this long enough, I've found a pretty good balance for what works for my body. I've tried vegan, I've tried vegetarian, I've tried all these diets, and none of them worked for me as well as what I'm doing right now. I start with oatmeal in the morning. For me, I do oatmeal and eggs almost every morning for breakfast. A lot of times that comes along with a little bit of elk sausage or deer sausage or something like that. And like these bowls of oatmeal we're talking about are like just massive, because I need those carbohydrates, and the easy to digest carbohydrates are really important for my body. And that works best for me. I don't know. Did I tick off enough of your questions that you rapid fired at me?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't want to take up too much of your family time, and you guys want to go hit the gym. I would love to connect with you for another podcast interview.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
After the season, probably not mid-season, because you'll be right there.
Yeah, it's gonna be heated for sure.
Yeah. I think you've answered a lot of the questions. One of the questions that I had that you kind of pretty much already answered, but if you could have one significant impact on the world, what would it be? Like you had you said if you could have one impact in the ski industry, what it would be. But what about like overall in the world? Do you have bigger views for your skiing and for who you are as a person and your ability to shape the world?
Yeah, I mean, I can't naturally answer that question without a little bit of bias. Um, so, I mean, my desire, my hope to impact the world is definitely shaped through what I see as my platform as a skier, as an Olympic gold medalist. Uh, and we already, like you said, we've already talked about it. I really want to encourage uh, people, but people in general, but specifically men, to be more vulnerable about who they are, and to admit their mistakes, admit their flaws, and just be happier because of. I know that I personally am happier and more content because I embraced the way God made me. God made me unique, and it rather than that being a detrimental thing or a negative thing, um, as soon as I embraced that, it became the most positive thing that I had going for me. And I think that God made each person on this planet as an individual. We weren't meant to be a flock. We were all meant to be trendsetters and unique humans. So that would be the greatest, if I could affect, you say affect the world. If I could affect one or two people with that, and just allow them to be comfortable enough to uh, to be who they are, rather than be the imposter, then I would say my job is done.
Yeah, totally, man. I guess one last question for you. What's one piece of advice that you were given by those mentors? And we've already talked about this a little bit as well, but one piece of advice that you were given by those mentors that really stuck with you and has shaped you to become the person that you are. It probably parallels that last question pretty.
It does, for sure. Yeah, that's an easy question for me to answer because I always answer that question the same way. C.R. Johnson actually was the one who told me this. And he said, don't focus on where you're at. Focus on where you're going. Don't let what people say about you now affect where you're going. Because the reality is you're only limited by yourself. At the end of the day, people will try to put limits on you, and society will try to put limits on you, and they'll try to slow you down, and they'll try to make you a little less unique. But at the end of the journey, you're only really truly affected by when you gave up and when you stopped pushing forward. I would say that I wasn't always, I was never really the phenom that everybody was like, oh, this kid's going to be something. I was never like a savant, and people are just like, oh, this guy, he's got all the talent in the world. I was always kind of not necessarily middle of the road, but I was just above middle of the road. People are like, oh yeah, he's got some skills, yeah, that David Wise kid, he can land some cool tricks. But I didn't let that define me. I didn't say, okay, I'm just going to be middle of the road or slightly above middle of the road. I was like, I'm just going to. So we were on to the wrap-up question, which I can't remember what it was now.
One piece of advice that you had gotten from a mentor.
Oh, right. Yeah.
From someone, and you were talking about C.R. Johnson and focusing on where you're going, not where you are.
Yeah, not necessarily like not focusing on where you are, because I think it's super important to be alert and aware of that. But one of the things he taught me was that progression is about baby steps. Progression is about chipping away at it, rather than I think we get a little caught up in these huge concepts of like, okay, I need to do double corks this year, or I need to do triple corks this year. I'm not doing technical enough lines, or I need to ski way faster, and that's when you get outside of your ability level and get hurt, is overly focusing or overly pushing on stepping up to the next level. So CR said, hey, focus on where you're going and what it takes to get there. and just chip in. So if I could give any piece of advice, that would be my advice and that's what advice I give to every young rider whoever asks me, is just chip away at it. Just get a little bit better. Just add one, half spin at a time. Just get a little bit better each day, and you'll be amazed by how far you get. I don't think anybody would have seen how I was as a 14-year-old and said, "Oh, that guy's going to be an Olympic gold medalist someday," But I just chipped away at it, and all of a sudden, the guys who were way better than me were getting beat by me, and they didn't really see it coming. And so yeah, you just chip away at it.
Awesome, man. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, easy. It's facebook.com/Mr. David Wise, Mr. David Wise. And then Instagram is David Wise _. And Twitter is @Mr. David Wise. And those are my main channels. My website also, where I'm going to be doing some blogging and stuff, is david-wise.com or mrdavidwise.com. They both go to the same spot. So you can kind of follow my journey there. I'm going to be telling stories and having fun with that. And as well as I started a YouTube channel this year where you can kind of follow not just David Wise, professional skier, competitor, but you can see who I am with my family, the fun stuff we do together, as well as a lot of the insights into the background of my story and what I do and how I approach the sport and all those things. So there's going to be a lot of content coming out through YouTube this year, as well as Facebook and Instagram. I'm pretty good about interchanging everything, letting people know when something cool is coming out. A side note, now that you asked me about this, I always forget to do. I'm not a real good self promoter, as we talked about earlier. On November 14th, my wife and I are launching through my YouTube channel a video that we worked on for 2 years, and it's worth checking out. It's kind of this. It's a visual representation of our two converging paths, she and I, and so it's got some pretty epic imagery. There's shots of me jumping my bike off cliffs and doing crazy stuff, and her climbing and running and hiking mountains in a wedding dress and all kinds of cool things. So we're launching that on November 14th. You guys can check it out through my YouTube channel. And thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with me. Now you can see why I look up to this man so much. He's got just such an amazing outlook on life and on the sport and how he trains, and is a positive influence on many people. And I hope that you guys really enjoyed this conversation and took something from it that can help you in your personal life, in your skiing, whatever it is. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe if any of these episodes have helped you. That really helps me out. Thanks a ton.